Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to bring you impactful insights. I'm your guide, ready to unpack some truly fascinating material.
And I'm here to help connect the dots, offering deeper insights and maybe some new perspectives.
You're tuning into the 9th installment of our seminar series on the Oedipal Triangle. This is all part of the Lee Orr Super Fun Learning Hour.
That's right.
And today, we're plunging into a really interesting paper by Thomas Ogden. It's called The Threshold of the Male Oedipus Complex.
A pivotal one.
He pinpoints this critical, maybe often overlooked moment where boys face this unique psychological dilemma, something Freud didn't fully explore, perhaps.
Well, he suggests it's a kind of threshold that really defines their path to masculinity.
Okay.
Our mission today really is just to walk you through Ogden's central points. Keep it thoughtful, accessible.
Yeah, not treating every single idea like some world-shattering revelation.
Exactly. We're looking for those aha moments, the things that build understanding, deepen our grasp of how people develop.
Okay, let's unpack this then. For listeners who are pretty familiar with Freud, you might be thinking, okay, Oedipus complex, got it.
Sure.
But Ogden seems to be pushing us to look closer, right? To see some kind of hidden challenge.
He really is. I mean, for, over 90 years, Freud's Oedipus complex has been absolutely central to psychoanalytic theory.
A cornerstone, yeah.
It links psychological structure,
Yeah.
unconscious meaning, desire.
Yeah.
It's huge, undeniably central.
And everyone pretty much agrees the transition into the complex is critical for development. But where does Ogden offer something really distinct here? What's his unique angle?
Well, Ogden argues that maybe theory hasn't focused enough on the specific processes, the psychological and interpersonal stuff that mediate this specific transition for boys.
Okay.
He feels it's been a bit neglected, maybe. He suggests the boy's entry is mediated by a transitional relationship with a mother.
Transitional, okay.
Now, what's fascinating is, that might sound a bit like female development, but there's a really significant difference in emphasis, a nuance.
And that difference, Ogden thinks, it comes from the fact that the Oedipal mother, she's the same mother he knew before, but also not the same.
Exactly. She's the same and not the same mother the boy loved and feared before she, and his father too, became these external Oedipal objects.
Right.
And that creates these unique, really intense complications specifically for boys.
So the closeness is the problem.
Precisely. The core challenge he points to is that deep psychological proximity of the pre-Oedipal mother and the Oedipal mother.
Okay.
And for male development, this specific issue, it needs a distinctive psychological solution. And Ogden proposes that the primal scene fantasy is essential here.
Ah, the primal scene.
Yeah, as this unconscious organizer, kind of shaping, evolving sexual meaning, personal identity, helping move from those primitive sort of fragmented ideas towards more complex understandings.
So what's really striking is how Ogden seems to flip what we might assume. He's saying it's not straightforward for a boy to just keep loving his mother in this new Oedipal way, that it's actually full of conflict.
That's exactly it. Freud famously said, "It is no surprise that boys retain the object, the mother, in the Oedipus complex."
Right, seems logical.
But Ogden strongly disagrees. He argues there are actually very salient reasons for a boy not to simply retain his mother as the Oedipal object. Given that intense attachment, the needs tied to the pre-Oedipal mother, the psychological burden is just immense.
So Ogden's big questions are, how does the little boy manage to take his mother as his Oedipal love object? And what are the processes, the psychological interpersonal stuff, mediating that shift from pre-Oedipal to Oedipal, relating with her?
That's the core he's tackling. And in doing that, he does acknowledge Freud's idea of primal scene fantasies being universal, maybe even inherited, these primal fantasies.
Built-in readiness.
Yeah, kind of structural readiness to organize experience. Ogden calls it a psychological deep structure, like a mental framework for understanding relationships.
Yeah.
Almost like Chomsky's idea of deep structure in language.
Okay, so Ogden paints this picture of the boy entering the Oedipus complex, like navigating, Scylla and Charybdis.
Exactly, that perilous passage.
So for you listening, it's like being caught between two massive dangers. You go one way, disaster. Go the other way, also disaster. How does a boy manage that? Avoiding the unknown external mother, Scylla, but also escaping the engulfing pre-Oedipal mother, Charybdis.
Well, on one side you have Scylla, the external Oedipal object mother. She's dangerously unknown, unpredictable.
Okay.
But the deeper danger, the more profound one, is Charybdis, the omnipotent pre-Oedipal mother.
The one he knew before.
Yes, the primitive, partially differentiated figure. The one he felt mesmerized by, maybe even used or in his mind destroyed. This really powerful mother figure threatens to just pull him back, dissolve him into that undifferentiated state.
And this is where it's really different for boys compared to girls.
Significantly different. For a little girl, the main challenge is making that leap, hopefully non-traumatically, from relating to her internal mother to a love relationship with an external father.
Someone new.
Right, someone she hasn't met internally yet, someone she can't omnipotently control. And that risk is softened, made bearable, by what Ogden calls a father and mother dynamic. The mother unconsciously carries or represents the father.
Creating a safe illusion, almost.
Exactly. But for the boy, the Oedipal mother looks uncannily like that all-powerful pre-Oedipal mother.
Ah, okay.
So his unique struggle is to somehow create distance from that powerful, primitive, mesmerizing mother.
While falling in love with her.
While simultaneously falling in love with the Oedipal mother. There's this huge danger of being just, dissolved by her warmth, her safety, losing his sense of where he stops and she begins.
Wow.
It's like, being swept away by a massive wave. You lose all sense of direction in your own body, but psychologically.
Deeply. Okay, so how does he navigate this incredibly tricky spot between Scylla and Charybdis? You mentioned the primal scene fantasies.
Right. Ogden points to their crucial role. And these aren't just, fleeting, exciting thoughts about parents having sex.
There's more to it.
Oh, much more profound. They are pivotal organizers. Organizers of internal-external object relations. Fundamental for developing a mature Oedipus complex.
Right.
These fantasies, they introduce this powerful sense of thirdness.
Thirdness.
Yeah, creating this vital psychological space between mother and child. And that space allows for symbols to form, for a distinct sense of self-subjectivity to develop, and crucially, to recognize sexual and generational difference.
So, like, the image of seeing parents together acts as a kind of mold, a way to start thinking about something previously unthinkable.
That's a good way to put it. And initially, these are primitive versions, cast in what Ogden calls a paranoid schizoid mode.
Which means?
It refers to a very early mental state, very fragmented, where good and bad are sharply split, black and white, and the self is still forming.
Okay.
In that mode, the boy experiences himself as a self as object. He's immersed in this scary sexual or aggressive event. He's part of the scene, not separate from it at all.
He doesn't have perspective.
Barely an interpreting subject at all. He is the scene, almost no sense of being removed. Ogden gives this powerful clinical example. A patient, Dr. L.
Right, the screen memory.
Exactly. A screen memory, vivid, but often symbolic, masking deeper stuff.
Yeah, Dr. L remembered, as a 7-year-old, accidentally sticking his fingers in a light socket and feeling this terrifying, powerful vibration.
He felt caught between two things, becoming part of it, them like a piece of the apparatus holding the two together. He said he knew it would kill him if it didn't stop.
And the analysis suggested this was built on a primitive, primal scene fantasy.
Exactly. He was omnipotently identified with the sexual force connecting mother and father, the lampstand as penis, the socket as vagina, metaphorically. He was that force, not just watching.
Wow.
But even there, in that really primitive state, Ogden sees a rudimentary sense of thirdness, a potential at least for mature, triangulated relationships later on.
So, as the boy develops, he moves from these raw, primitive fantasies towards the mature Oedipus complex. And you said this is mediated by a transitional Oedipal relationship with the mother.
Yes, it's quite a journey from that light socket image.
Definitely.
And here's another one of those paradoxical insights from Ogden. It is through a relationship with the mother, a female, that the little boy acquires a phallus.
Okay, and phallus here isn't just the physical penis.
Right, not at all. It's about the symbolic meanings the boy attributes to himself as male. What empowers him sexually gives him a sense of masculine agency or efficacy.
So somehow, within this two-person relationship with the mother, the three-person Oedipal triangle actually starts to develop.
That's the idea. The mother is experienced simultaneously as father and mother and father.
Wait, how does that work?
Think of it less as literal people, and more that the mother unconsciously embodies and conveys the presence or maybe the absence of these crucial parental figures from her own internal world.
From her own history.
Exactly. The question of which is which isn't even really asked at that stage. It's happening because the mother brings the phallic father into the relationship via her own unconscious internal Oedipal father, the one she's identified with.
Her own unconscious Oedipus complex kind of echoes into her relationship with her son.
Perfectly put. It involved this reverberating set of object relations that she projects onto and co-creates with her son.
Okay, but that raises a huge question then. What if the mother's own internal father figure isn't well established? If she lacks that internal sense of a strong, healthy father herself?
Well, Ogden says that creates a profound emotional vacuum. It robs the boy of the essential ingredients he needs to really elaborate the Oedipus complex properly.
So the actual real-life father, he's secondary at this early stage.
In terms of bearing the phallus, yes, he becomes secondary. No external person can fully make up for a fragile or missing internal template. The boy just lacks the necessary blueprint.
So this paradox, this masculinity and femininity, thirdness and two-ness, that's at the heart of this transitional relationship. And it eventually evolves into a more mature, primal scene fantasy.
Right. It moves beyond just raw sensation. It becomes more like a narrative, a story about observing the father and mother having sex.
Okay.
And in this version, the father and mother are clearly differentiated. They are separate individuals. Then they are joined in this specific act.
That sounds crucial. Sexual difference is acknowledged for the first time, clearly.
Yes, and at the same time, a new kind of knowledge, a new unity is created. The child understands intercourse involves two parents, different from each other, and both different from him.
He's separate.
Exactly.
Right.
He's no longer just embodying sexual excitement in a world of part objects like just a breast or just a penis.
Right.
He becomes a subject, an I in a world of whole objects recognizing mom and dad as complete separate people.
And now he can feel the excitement of having a phallus, identify more maturely with his father, and take his mother as his love object.
Precisely. He can genuinely take her as the object of his love and sexual desire now.
And the fact that he's only the observer, that's what protects him.
It separates him sufficiently from the danger of actual incest, which, remember, isn't just about castration anxiety. It's about the threat of annihilation, of his sense of self collapsing back into the mother.
Right, that Charybdis danger.
Exactly. Those reminders of external reality, of separateness, they help keep the fantasy as a space for thinking, unconsciously, rather than tipping over into hallucination or delusion.
Okay, let's loop back to Dr. L, the biochemist, who felt he was destined to be just pretty good, but not great.
Yes.
His initial lack of desire and analysis, that passivity, like an ungarnished slab of meat that really showed his defense, right? Expecting nothing.
It really did. And remember, his mother's contempt for his father, always comparing him unfavorably to her own idealized wealthy father.
Right, and Dr. L figured out her worship of her father was actually denying her own neglect by him.
And Ogden suggests this, left that profound missing other, that missing father and mother inside the mother's psyche, which then deeply affected Dr. L.
And it showed up in his fantasies, too, that lifelong masturbation fantasy. Hearing his mother calling, her voice sweet but strange, thinking she's possessed.
By creatures from outer space.
Wishing his father was there to go in first, feeling paralyzed, wanting to save her but also save himself, but still lingering for the exciting sound.
It's a powerful image of that conflict.
And then later confessing to masturbating while wearing his mother's or wife's underwear, imagining himself as his mother with a penis, masturbating.
Yeah. Ogden's interpretation there was stark in that fantasy. No fathers, no sons, no differences between men and women. Everything had collapsed into a single person, a single sex.
A kind of delusional merging with the mother.
A delusional sexual identity with her, yes, where only female sexuality existed, completely swallowing up masculinity because there was no effective phallic father present internally.
Her idealized father was just a ghost.
It's shadow. And his own actual father couldn't make up for that internal lack. Dr. L also had intense anxiety about the analyst being like a woman or about himself becoming homosexual, which for him meant a sexuality completely lacking that phallic thirdness.
But through the analysis, things started to shift. He began to see his actual father's strengths.
He did. The political care, the courage in hiring black employees back in the 50s, despite the risks. He realized he'd cheated his father out of the experience of feeling like a father.
Wow.
And he was able to feel love for the analyst without that intense anxiety. He even read one of Ogden's books, apparently, and felt genuinely proud of him, a feeling totally new to him.
That clinical example really drives home what happens when the mother's identification with her own father is weak or damaged, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It results in that profound sense of a missing other for the boy, a critical absence in his psychological building blocks.
So, if a little boy is left psychologically alone with his Oedipal mother, what are the main impacts? 'First, you said not enough opportunity to identify with a phallic presence.
Right. So, the boy, as a less chance to become phallically empowered himself. He's missing that crucial blueprint for masculinity.
And second.
Second, there's no protective prohibition from that phallic third, the father and mother figure, who, in fantasy, claims the mother as his own love object.
Which sets boundaries.
Exactly. It delineates generational boundaries.
Yeah.
And it wards off that catastrophic feeling for the boy that he might actually be invited into a real sexual union with his mother, which is terrifying.
So without that father and mother to identify with, the primal scene fantasy itself becomes terrifying.
Utterly terrifying. It becomes a fantasy of intercourse with an omnipotent mother of just pure, unmediated two-ness, a dyad with no third party breaking it up.
And the mother figure takes on this frightening quality.
Yes, the terrifying strangeness of genital female sexuality, which isn't made safe by the presence of a father and mother. Unopposed female sexuality can become this scary caricature marked by the absence of the father who, in the fantasy, seems to have been destroyed by the mother.
And that blocks the boy's path forward.
Completely. It blocks his entrance into mature sexuality, emotional maturity, achieving a solid masculine gender identity. Ogden says he can't become a man in relation to a magical sorceress. He can only try, futilely, to become magical himself.
So, wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway about male development here? Ogden's showing us that entering the male Oedipus complex is this really delicate dance.
Yeah, mediated by that transitional Oedipal relationship with the mother and by how those primal scene fantasies evolve in complexity. It's definitely not just a simple matter of sticking with mom as the love object.
For the boy, the mother is all these things at once. The omnipotent pre-Oedipal figure, the exciting external Oedipal object, and the phallic Oedipal father via her own unconscious stuff.
Right, and that space, that area of illusion, is where the external Oedipal objects get discovered non-traumatically. It lets the boy navigate that threshold safely.
And because the male complex doesn't involve changing the love object like the female one does, its foundation is kind of uniquely vulnerable.
It is, because the external Oedipal mother always bears that resemblance to the internal pre-Oedipal mother, threatening to pull him back, keep him an infant forever.
But the primal scene fantasy, that offers the solution.
It offers a powerful way through. In its more mature form, the boy becomes this excluded observer, but he's also a participant through identification.
Okay.
He acknowledges the differences, sexual, generational. He sees an empowering father. He sees a mother connected to but not swallowed by her own omnipotent pre-Oedipal self.
And the fantasy of the father's penis in the mother's vagina, that's the concrete image of this thirdness.
Exactly. That's what triangulates what was previously just a dyadic two-person relationship. It lets the boy be an interpreting subject, feel empowered, but stay safely separated from that potentially consuming two-ness.
So this brings us to a final thought for you, our listener. How do these really deep-seated, often unconscious, deep structures of relating, the kind Ogden describes, how do they keep shaping our adult lives?
Yeah, influencing maybe our choices and relationships, our careers, even our sense of self-worth, long after childhood is over. What connections might you draw from your own life or what you observe around you?
That was a truly insightful deep dive into Thomas Ogden's work. Really fascinating stuff. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
We hope this exploration gave you some new angles to think about and maybe provoke some further reflection.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep making those connections. We'll see you on the next deep dive.